It is Monday morning, a new day beginning, a new week. Good morning and welcome to your first news bulletin right here on TV3. We are coming to you live from our studios at Adesawe, Kanda. We also streaming live on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. My name is Safwa Brahine. Now coming up this morning. Former Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund Chairman Professor Christopher Ameyaw Akumfi has been released by National Intelligence Bureau after he was detained over the 2 million Sky train scandal. Also, President Mahama to deliver State of the Nation address later this week in Parliament. Coming up, Volta Region Police opens investigations into clashes between students of the Sokode Senior High Technical School and youth of Sokode Bugame. Lastly, Deputy Ministerial nominees of President John Mahama's government to start vetting today. We have details and many more coming up shortly. Please do stay with us. Many thanks for joining us this morning. Let's settle for the details now, where former chairman of the Ghana Infrastructural Investment Fund, Professor Christopher Ameyaw Akumfi, has been released by the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, but is expected to help with further investigations. The legal team of the former Minister of Education were at the NIB offices to engage authorities ahead of his release. NIB officials described his invitation and detention as parts of the routine investigative processes. Professor Ameyaw Akumfi previously served as Minister of Education and has held key government positions. In a related development, Kweku Ohenijan, former Deputy Director of Operations at the National Service Authority, NSA, popularly known as Osonoba, was also detained by the NIB. He was allegedly picked up on Saturday evening and being held at the NIB offices. While the exact reasons for his detention remain unknown, there are questions about whether it is linked to the recent scandal at the NSA. His legal team is expected to meet with him later this morning to discuss the case and explore possible legal operations for his release. We'll be bringing you more details on that. But away from that, President John Dramani Mahama is expected to deliver his first State of the Nation address on Thursday, February 27, in accordance with Article 67 of the Constitution. This was announced by the Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga during his presentation of the business statement for next week, indicating that security arrangements have been put in place to ensure a smooth process. Meanwhile, the Minority Leader Alexander Peñomaken wants measures put in place to allow an early entry of the President into the chamber.
President John Dramani Mahama will be in this House on Thursday, 27th of February 2025, in accordance with Article 67 of the Constitution, to deliver the State of the Nation address. All honorable members are to be seated in the chamber 9:15 a.m. This is because once His Excellency the President enters the chamber, national security will not allow any member access into the chamber. Honorable members are not to enter the chamber with a stranger, so do not bring a stranger into the chamber. Only the deputy speakers and the two leaders will have access to the speaker's lobby. Usually the president will come in, go to the speaker's lobby, and then from there will be ushered into the chamber. During the address, the doors into the chamber from the majority side will be locked. So from the majority side, the door will be locked. Hence, all honorable members are kindly requested to exit the chamber from the minority side or the exit at the division room. The military will be using where we normally park to form their parade, and so we are advised or requested to park at the forecourt of State House.
Whilst we patiently await the President, there are two issues I want the leader of government business to ferry to His Excellency the President, Ajubli. One, in the past, when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had to come here on a similar constitutional exercise, he had to wait for several hours before entering the chamber. I hope that the leader of government business will put in place the necessary support systems to allow an early entry of the president into this chamber. It is his maiden entry into this house. He should ensure that all nagging issues are addressed, and he should ensure that the president is safely brought in and he does his work in peace. The leader of government business has a duty in communicating the concerns of this house to the president. My duty is to guarantee his peace in this house, but that will materially depend on the work of the majority leader.
Let's still remain in Parliament because the Appointments Committee of Parliament will resume vetting of President John Mahama's ministers today after an abrupt end to the exercise some weeks ago. The nominees expected to appear before the committee are the deputy ministers for key sectors including finance, defense, education, among others. The nominees include Thomas Ampem Nyako as Deputy Finance Minister, Ernest Broja Jemfi as Deputy Defense Minister, Ebenezer Oklete Telabi as Deputy Interior. We have Justice Sremsai as Deputy Attorney General, Alhassan Suhuini as Deputy Roads and Highways Minister, and we have Clement Abbas Apak as Deputy Education Minister. The rest are Rita Nadolesoa as Deputy Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. And we have Gisela Tete as Deputy Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources. We also have Yusuf Suleimana as Deputy for Lands and Natural Resources. Richard Jan Mensah as Deputy Minister for Energy and Green Transition. Still in Parliament, members of Parliament took turns on Friday to express themselves in their local languages, marking the debates in a unique and historic day. While a unanimous appeal was made to ensure local languages are taught in schools, the lawmakers also stressed the significance of speaking native languages to promote culture diversity. Christian Yale highlights some of the interesting moments in this report. So we'll be bringing you more on that as we are getting the soundbite of that. But it is quite interesting to know that members of Parliament are expressing themselves in Parliament and would like to hear and know more about it. Christian Yali brings us the report on that. Let's take a listen.
It was a colorful scene with Ghana's rich cultural and linguistic diversity on full display in the chamber. The minority leader Alexander Fiomakin set the tone when he lamented the revocation of some recruitment in Eva and Asante Tree.
Mr. Speaker, no casual. Now, Ghana, the view employment, now, sack, no casual. Sure. In other words, I'm saying that then Ekosui, Aden.
Minister for Tourism, Culture and Arts, Jifa Ablagumashi, read a statement underscoring the need to train local language teachers and equip schools with relevant teaching and learning materials.
Let us cherish and preserve our Ghanaian languages, for they are the essence of our humanity.
On the International Mother Language Day, legislators demanded for the teaching of Ghanaian language in schools. The Education Minister, Harun Idrisi, noted that all Ghanaian languages do not have textbooks, saying government will review the curricula to cater for such gaps. Listen to him speak Asante Tree and Dagbani.
See government. Ebola body I carry, AIDS body I carry. Look at my pay.
Order 63 of the new standing orders allows the MPs to speak any local languages subject to interpretation and translation. Some MPs maintain that clause of the interpretation and translation defeats the rationale behind the move. We need at least one day dedicated each year for MPs to speak their local languages. Because having to speak your local language and interpreting it is a major setback in this whole drive.
One day. Other
MPs took turns in the chamber to speak their local languages.
Ghana Parliament. Ghana. Akan Yotibojio, Fantan Yotibojio, Ewan Yotibojio, Oja Northegio, Ko Obile Aye O Manwemo, to wait that wherever you are coming from, speak your mother tongue with your children and your grandchildren.
International Mother Language Day was declared by UNESCO in 1999 and is observed every year on February 21st to preserve and protect all languages, especially those at risk of disappearing.
Beautiful conversations had inside the chamber right behind me. Mama Diandani, na midem tenmo parke, okay fa you chun dendele, you clear you kradi was school ahori. To which what I'm saying is that I am a hunter from the Western region and I agree that we use our local languages to teach our children at all levels of education to preserve our culture. Befreme Christian Yale, TV3 News, Parliament House, Accra.
It's always thrilling to know that we can speak so many different dialects, and it's amazing hearing it, especially at Parliament. But moving away from Parliament into the courts now, a Supreme Court bailiffs on Friday, February 21, 2025, served a certiorari application on the Member of Parliament for Tema Central, Charles Forson, via substituted service. This follows the party's decision to contest the declaration of the NPP candidate as winner of the elections. The NDC filed an earlier application to quash the High Court decision which ordered the EC to collate and declare parliamentary results of Techiman South, Okaikwe Central, Tema Central and Ablekuma North constituencies. The notice of substituted service, which was posted on the residence of Mr. Forson, was necessitated after several failed efforts to effect personal service on him. The legal team of the NDC parliamentary candidate led by Seth Nyaba disclosed to the court on Thursday, February 6, 2025, that efforts to serve the court documents on the NPP candidate had been unsuccessful and would require substituted service to serve the documents. Counsel argued that more than 3 unsuccessful attempts have been made to effect personal service of the certiorari application. The Apex Court on Friday granted the application. Bringing you some more news, former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu has stated that she remains undecided on the persistent calls to scrap the Council of State, a key advisory body to the executive. Speaking on hot issues with Kemeni Amano, the former Chief Justice suggested that rather than abolishing the council, reforms should be introduced to make its members less partisan.
There have been calls for the scrapping of the Council of State. What do you think about those calls?
I'm not too decided on that personally, but some are of the view that the Council of State should, in fact, even be converted into a second legislative chamber. So
like
that
an upper chamber or
so. Like an upper chamber, so that matters like the finances of the country, defense, those particularly key areas, they have a say in it before it is finally decided. And then, of course, one would have to also come up with a formulation which will ensure that even though they are there, they are still not there in a partisan capacity.
I want to hear your thoughts on people's position that members of the Council of State, do not deserve, so to speak, or should not receive ex gratia after serving the 4 years.
I think this matter of ex gratia is one of, I believe, policy. Because the Council of State also comes under the the Article 71 office holders. Mm-hmm. It's really the recommendations which get made by the committee that the president sets up under the article. For example, throughout the time I was actively on the bench, the 24 years I was on the bench, no one was expecting any ex gratia, anything. All you know is that at the end of your service, there were certain recommendations that had been made.
Let's take you to the energy sector, where the Energy Commission is currently in the preparatory process of developing the regulatory framework for the green hydrogen industry in Ghana. This according to Senior Manager in charge of renewables at the Energy Commission, Julius Nkansanyako, will put Ghana in a pole position. He said this at the installation of Ghana's first green hydrogen mini-grids at the Don Bosco Training Center in Tema.
Ghana is on a path of taking bold steps by exploring new frontiers to support its energy deficit. The green hydrogen for decentralized mini-grids in sub-Saharan Africa is Ghana's first green hydrogen system stationed at the Don Bosco Training Center in Tema. Ghana's energy transition framework targets a total shift from fossil fuel to green energy by 2070. Under the framework, the country has targeted that by 2045, more than 70% of all road vehicles would run on electricity and hydrogen, and all road and rail motilities are expected to run on electricity and hydrogen by 2070. Senior Manager in charge of renewables at the Energy Commission, Julius Nkansa, has been given insight into the project.
The Energy Commission is currently in the preparatory process of developing the regulatory framework for the green hydrogen industry, and given Ghana's green energy needs and commitment to sustainable development, it is imperative that we put in place the appropriate policies, regulatory framework and standards to ensure safety, quality and environmental compliance that can facilitate the rapid development and utilization of green hydrogen.
With a system being developed by Green Power Brain, Bochum University of Applied Sciences and SFC Energy, German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Crew, said the system will produce, store and use green hydrogen for integration into the Don Bosco mini-grid.
My team sometimes doesn't like my impatience, that I'm not happy with how speedy we are with setting up the regulatory framework. I would like to take you back to when I came here in the end of 21. I started to reach out to institutions here in the country. And I always said, I'm just an humble ambassador. I'm not telling you that green hydrogen is the solution for Ghana. But I would like to raise your attention to the point that something is happening on the energy market. And it's happening big.
We now take you to Volta region, where police in that region have opened investigations into the bloody clashes between students of the Sokode Senior High Technical School and youth of Sokode. The incident, which started Saturday, lasted till Sunday morning and has left a number of students and youth injured, leading to a temporary shutdown of the school. Faisal Abdul Jisu has more in the following report. We'll bring more details on that for you later in a subsequent bulletin. But transition rates in Ghana have often been marked by the revocation of public service recruitment. This practice has significant implications for the affected individuals, their families, and their broader public service. The recent directive to revoke public service recruitment after December 7, 2024 have ignited the debate on this issue. Judith Brown reports.
In Ghana, politics is a high-stakes game. But behind the headlines and the handshakes, there's always a human cost. In 2016, Ghana witnessed yet another transition of power. After 8 years of governance, voters did what they knew best: hand over power to another political party, as has been the trend since the inception of the Fourth Republic. But beneath the surface of what was described as a peaceful transition, a different story was unfolding.
We've heard of award of new contracts after the election results are announced on the 9th of December. We do not want to believe that these allegations are true.
Widespread condemnation followed as news of the Mahama administration's last-minute recruitments surfaced. Then came the shocking news: the revocation of all appointments made after the election results were declared.
And that night I cried. I became mad.
Edwin Afechi was just one amongst many recruits affected by the sudden revocation. After working as a volunteer with the National Service Secretariat for 8 years, his dream of being employed by the service had finally come true after an advertisement for district officer positions had gone viral.
The recruitment process started from October. So we went to our interviews around November. I went through about 3 stages before we had our letters in December.
But his employment would be short-lived.
They claimed that the appointments did not follow due process, and that due process is known to them alone.
Soon after, Edwin became the latest victim of job loss and financial instability.
Having been a volunteer for about 8 years, waiting for that opportunity to come, and it has come. Less than 3 months, you are being told that no, you will not take it. It shook me a lot. It's like getting to heaven and then being returned to hell. My wife even confessed to me that at that point she felt it was not worth it. She wanted to divorce.
Edwin was not alone. Many others found themselves caught in the same predicament. John Indebugri left his lucrative private sector job to join the public sector for the very first time. But his decision would soon become his biggest regret.
I read and saw a press release by one Yusuf Mustafa saying that all appointments had been withdrawn with immediate effect. They said all appointments dated 15th withdrawn immediately. Mine was 12th. Still, they said I was affected.
For John, he didn't just lose one job. He lost 2.
When I got this appointment, I informed my immediate boss in the private sector that I had gotten some job. So once I told my boss I had gotten some job and I wanted to move, they had also prepared for my replacement. So I lost that job as well.
Edwin and John were 2 amongst many recruits who were laid off over claims of improper procedure. Sadly, the attempts in court proved futile. Fast forward to 2024, and history is repeating itself. The Chief of Staff's directive to lay off public sector employees appointed after December 7, 2024 has sparked outrage. For the government, the decision was made due to lack of proper recruitment procedure.
The way that the recruitments were done showed clearly that there was a certain effort to railroad party supporters into the civil and public service just because elections had been conducted, the MPP had lost and they were leaving.
As expected, the opposition, the New Patriotic Party, has condemned the directive.
The ordinary Ghanaian has a legitimate expectation that upon receiving an appointment letter, until he does something wrong or does anything against the company rules and regulations, he's supposed to remain in the employ of that institution. And today, they are being given letters. Go home. Meet the Kukuna government. Employ the people back.
And for those affected, the struggle feels all too familiar.
Some of us, we've moved from our various places to our post-rented rooms, and we are in the classrooms teaching. And our GS are saying they have revoked our appointments. We can't accept that.
Clearly, while both parties are engaging in a back and forth over who is right or wrong, the ordinary Ghanaian citizens remain at the receiving end. So what is the way forward?
In the current transitional law, 6 months into election, those office and duty bearers must write their handing over notes. So it implies that if 6 months into it, are there indications in the handing over notes that we started employing some people X number of years or months ago, is incomplete, it's at these various stages. So when you come, go ahead and see those that you think are good for your purpose and employ them.
The revocation of public service recruitment during transition periods is a perennial issue that requires national direction. Until then, the citizens continue to bear the brunt. Judith Brown, TV3 News.
A human cost indeed, but this is where we leave the morning news right here on TV3. Many thanks for joining us. But New Day continues with Cookie T and the rest of the team. My name is Safwa Bwahine. You have a blessed day.
Every moment counts.